Well, thank you. 4 years ago, Mike Huckabee united the evangelical vote to win the Iowa caucuses and win them big. His campaign manager in 2008 was Chip Saltzman, and Chip is kind enough to join us tonight now from Nashville. Mr. Saltzman, thanks very much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Good to be with you, Rachel.
When you look at the similarities between the number of evangelicals among the caucus goers who are turning out tonight in 2012 compared with when you won in Iowa in 2008, what does that tell you about Iowa and about what we should expect for the night's results?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a couple things. One, it's a little less as the total turnout is, because I think what you're seeing with Ron Paul is a lot of new voters are coming, about 25% new caucus goers coming for the first time. And as I've seen kind of the early numbers, and I was kind of looking at the maps of east versus west versus middle, the evangelicals are pretty much across the board kind of where they were at the Huckabee in 2008. But when you talk about it, it was a two-man race in 2008 between Mike Huckabee and Mitt Romney. Those were really the two choices. Now the evangelicals have got Santorum, they've got Gingrich, they've got Perry, they've got Bachmann. And some of them, as you've seen from your polling, have chosen Dr. Paul. And, of course, some are going to Mitt Romney. And you're seeing Mitt Romney kind of underperform a bit where he was in the West, but overperforming in the middle. And so I think at the end of the day, it's a little bit like 2008, but mostly a lot different.
In terms of how Huckabee put together his Iowa win in 2008 and the sort of long, bumpy road that lies ahead of all of these candidates who aren't named Mitt Romney tonight, do you think there is a lesson from your campaign with Mike Huckabee for how any one of these candidates can get the rest of the evangelical voters that are still out there that may be thinking about who to support, how to get them to coalesce around one particular candidate?
Well, we tried for a year, and they didn't really come on board till towards the end. But it's a lot more than just the evangelical voters in Iowa for Mike Huckabee. It was the fair taxers. It was the homeschoolers. It was a lot of different folks. His record as governor with transportation issues. It was a whole lots of different coalitions. And the lesson learned here is you can do this with lots of different coalitions. Look, everybody wants to say it's the evangelical crowd that's going to support Rick Santorum. He's got lots of other supporters out there, just like Mike Huckabee did 4 years ago. And his challenge is, as he moves on, is what can he make the case in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Florida that he can beat Barack Obama, and why? It's not just that he's the value voters' choice. He's got to make it to all the voters, because at the end of the day, if you got every single evangelical to vote for you, you're not going to win. You need to get a lot of other voters out there. So the lesson is it's not just one segment, it's lots of different segments out there.
Chip, Al Sharpton, if you could advise, say Rick Santorum does come out successful tonight and becomes the main candidate for the evangelicals going forward against Romney, what advice could you give him and other contenders that you could give in saying that if we had done this in 2008, this would have happened, so you could sort of like give them a warning not to repeat what tripped up Huckabee in 2008?
Yeah, first of all, I would make sure that, Reverend Sharpton, that you're the fashion for any other candidate, because you're my fashion guru. I always try to follow what you are. I've got my red tie. I'm trying to look good. Second is focus on what you know. And so Rick Santorum, I know he's going to go to New Hampshire tomorrow. He's going to compete there. He's going to try to compete everywhere. But go to South Carolina and stake your claim. You know, we competed in New Hampshire, then we went to Michigan. We spent valuable resources in Michigan 4 years ago trying to kind of do the knockout punch on Mitt Romney, when we probably should have stayed in South Carolina, spent a few more days there, and maybe a few more $100,000 to go ahead and complete the Iowa-South Carolina two-step, as I like to call it. If we would have done that, we probably would have been the nominee 4 years ago.
Chip, I wore red tie because it's a Republican caucus. I wanted to be red tonight.
And we appreciate that, Reverend Sharpton.
Chip, it's Lawrence O'Donnell here. I just want to go a bit theological here on the evangelical voter. How much do they distinguish in particular practices of Christianity? There has been talk about Mormonism, but I'm now concerned with the question of how does a Catholic like Rick Santorum appeal to that voter, and do they find distinctions in Catholicism that are uncomfortable for them?
No, I mean, I think there's lots of evangelical voters. There's certain evangelical Catholics out there. I'm Catholic, and I was campaign manager for Mike Huckabee, and so it never really was an issue as kind of they don't dig that deep. But I think it's really more than that. Evangelical voters, do they vote pro-life issues and pro-family issues? Sure. But this year it's about jobs. And I think if you get really deep into the polling of the evangelical voters, I think their number one issue is out there. Certainly it's going to be abortion for some, but a lot of them, it's a job. It's about the economy. And that's going to be the number one issue forthgoing. And so you can't just talk to evangelicals about value issues like abortion and marriage and stuff like that. You've got to talk about jobs. You've got to talk about how we're going to get this country back to work again. And that's the challenge for any candidate, whether they're going after the evangelical vote or another group segment out there.
Chip, what's your take on Mitt Romney right now? He obviously isn't running away with it. He's been down this road before. He got 30,000 votes in 2008 against your guy who got 40,000. What do you make of his performance so far?
Well, to be honest, I'm kind of thought it was the right thing to do for Mitt Romney to get into Iowa. I still think it's the right thing to do. I think he's going to do well tonight, and I think he's going to be able to take that into New Hampshire, have a big win in New Hampshire, and build the case that he's the guy that can beat Barack Obama in November. That's been his campaign from day one. We always knew that this race was about a couple things. One, it was Mitt Romney and who was going to be not Mitt Romney, and then we had Dr. Paul. And so Dr. Paul has got a great showing tonight. Rick Santorum has become that not Mitt Romney candidate. And now what we've got the board set, we've got the players, and now we move on to New Hampshire, South Carolina to see how we finish out.
Chip Saltzman, the 2008 campaign manager for Mike Huckabee. This is an exciting night. Thank you for taking time out of it to talk with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.